Hello, this is Dana again with the 8th segment of the Master the Bible Today series. In keeping with the pattern of alternating between the Old and New Testament, and because I last shared about the book of Jude from the New Testament, today we're going to look at a snapshot of the book of Exodus. The purpose of the book of Exodus is to record the events of Israel's deliverance from Egypt and development as a nation. Exodus begins in gloom and ends in glory. This parallels our progress through the Christian life. We begin as slaves to sin, are redeemed by God, and end our pilgrimage living with God forever. The lessons the Israelites learned along the way we also need to learn. Exodus relates more miracles than any other Old Testament book and is noted for containing the 10 Commandments. The children of Israel, or Israelites, were the descendants of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel after he wrestled with the angel. See Genesis 32:24 through 30. Jacob's family moved to Egypt at the invitation of Joseph, one of Jacob's sons, who had become a great ruler under Pharaoh. Jacob's family grew into a large nation. The Hebrews, or Israelites, worship one God. The Egyptians worship many gods. Pharaoh was afraid the Israelites were becoming so numerous that they would organize and threaten his kingdom. So he made them slaves and oppressed them to kill their spirit and stop their growth. There were levels of slavery in Egypt. Some worked long hours in the mud pits, while others were skilled carpenters, jewelers, and craftsmen. Regardless, the Egyptians were specialists in making a slave's life miserable. When Moses was born, Pharaoh had already ordered that all male Hebrew children born must be thrown into the Nile River. But because of the midwives, who were Hebrew, love for God, they did not follow Pharaoh's orders. Moses' mother hid him as long as she could and then placed him into a basket on the river while Moses' sister, Miriam, watched nearby. The baby Moses was discovered by Pharaoh's daughter while she was bathing in the Nile River. She had compassion and decided to save the Hebrew baby as her son. Miriam quickly approached her and suggested a nurse to care for the child, and ironically, Moses' mother was hired to take care of her own child. Please note, be alert for special opportunities that God gives you and take full advantage of them. God does not need much from us to accomplish his plan for our lives. If we focus only on our human circumstances and troubles, we may think that God cannot do great things in our lives. Focus instead on God and trust him for the way out. When Moses grew a little older, he was given to Pharaoh's daughter to be raised in the palace as her son. One day, Moses saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, and he killed the Egyptian, thinking that no one saw him. But there was a witness, and Moses had to flee to the town of Midian. There he settled and married a priest, Jethro's daughter, and became a shepherd. What a contrast for Moses. From living in the palace, being taken care of, to being a shepherd and having to do everything for himself. But he was just where God wanted him to be, in God's plan to rescue the Hebrew Israelites from their slavery in Egypt. God's rescues do not always come when we want it, but it will be right on time. God had promised to rescue the Hebrew slaves out of Egypt many years ago. Genesis 15, verses 12 through 16, and 46, verses 3 through 4. God spoke to Moses from an unexpected source, a burning bush. As Moses went to investigate, and at God's command, he removed his sandals and covered his face. It was an act of reverence for God. God is our friend, but he is also our sovereign Lord. To approach him in a frivolous way shows a lack of respect and sincerity. When you come to God to worship, do you approach him casually, or do you come as though you were an invited guest before a king? If necessary, adjust your attitude so it is suitable for approaching a holy God. It was during Moses' burning bush experience that God revealed his plan to send him to Pharaoh to bring his people, the Israelites, out of Egypt and their bondage there, and to bring them to the land that is the modern-day Israel and Jordan. The book of Exodus reveals in an amazing way the mighty display of God's miracles and the power he used to bring his people out of Egypt. The Israelite celebration of Passover is an annual reminder of their escape from slavery. God also delivers us from the slavery of sin. Jesus Christ celebrated the Passover with his disciples at the Last Supper, and then went on to rescue us from sin by dying in our place. God guided Israel out of Egypt by using the plagues, Moses' historic courage, the miracle of the Red Sea, and the Ten Commandments. Although God is all-powerful and can do miracles, he normally leads us by wise leadership and team effort. His words give us wisdom to make daily decisions and govern our lives. God's law and system had 3 parts. The 10 Commandments were the first part, containing the absolutes of spiritual and moral life. The civil law was the second part, giving the people rules to manage their lives. The ceremonial law was the third part, showing them patterns for building the tabernacle and regular worship. God was teaching Israel the importance of choice and responsibility. When they obeyed the conditions of the law, he blessed them. If they forgot or disobeyed, he punished them or allowed calamities to come. Many great countries of the world today base their laws on the moral system set up in the book of Exodus. God's moral law is valid today. God founded the nation of Israel to be the source of truth and salvation to all the world. His relationship to his people was loving yet firm. The Israelites had no army, schools, governors, mayors, or police when they left Egypt. God had to instruct them in their constitutional laws and daily practices. He showed them how to worship and how to have national holidays. Israel's newly formed nation has all the behavioral characteristics of Christians today. We are often disorganized, sometimes rebellious, and sometimes victorious. God's person and word are still our only and best guide. If our churches reflect his leadership, they will be effective in serving him. Thank you.